So
Yes, good
I would
morning.
like to start. Good morning. I would like to start, first of all, with to give the floor to the Deputy Minister, Ms. Victoria Kireyeva, with the question, why it's so important that Ukraine has this pavilion today? What brought Ukraine for the climate policy today here on this pavilion? Please, floor is yours.
Всім доброго дня. Я дуже рада вас бачити. Буду сьогодні на українській мові. Мені Рима буде допомагати перекладати. Тому в першу чергу, чути так, да? В першу чергу КОП – це найбільша конференція кліматична, яку ми чекаємо цілий рік. І вже, ви знаєте, останній день КОПу 28 – це буде початок КОПу 29. Тому ми готуємося і ми розуміємо, що в першу чергу КОП – це місце для того, щоб кожна країна переглянула свої позиції щодо кліматичної політики, оновила свої позиції або відмовилася від певних позицій.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will start today in Ukrainian, and there will be a translation. So first of all, I would like to emphasize that COP is the biggest climate conference in the world, where all countries representing their hopes, their ideas, and their commitments toward our common climate goals. And when we are preparing for this current COP28, we already reviewing our current policies, and the last day of COP28 is our preparation, the start of COP29 cycle. So every country comes here to review and present their own commitment for the way forward.
І для України, в першу чергу, КОП важливий тим, що ми можемо знову привернути увагу до трагедії, яка відбувається на нашій території. Але це не основна наша задача. Наша основна задача – показати, що Україна є і залишається гравцем саме в світовій політиці, кліматичній політиці. І незважаючи на всі виклики, що перед нами ставить російська агресія, ми виконуємо свої зобов'язання і йдемо вперед.
And of course, for Ukraine, this COP is the place to once again draw attention of the global community to the catastrophe that is happening in Ukraine right now. But also, it's not the only goal of Ukraine. We would like also to show our ambition and show our commitment and our achievements in climate policy, and to show Ukraine as a big player in global climate policy.
Україна на КОПі – це не тільки український павільйон, це велика група перемовників, які сьогодні і щодня відстоюють наші позиції. Вони приймають участь в перемовинах щодо зеленого фінансування, щодо впровадження Паризької угоди, щодо нових ініціатив, а також щодо нових амбіцій. І нам дуже важливо, щоб на кожному засіданні, на кожному комітеті нас чули, і ми мали свою думку, і Україна мала свій голос.
This COP is not only Ukraine, and COP is not only this pavilion. We have our group of negotiators that are represented in all halls, almost all halls of negotiating process, and supporting and providing Ukrainian idea and Ukrainian views on these global challenges, these topics that are discussed in the negotiation rooms, green finance, global goals on mitigation and adaptation, new initiatives. And we are trying our best so that Ukraine's voice will be heard by the global community in negotiations and at the pavilion.
І КОП – це також проведення перемовин, це проведення зустрічей. Я хочу відзначити, що цього року вперше в історії України ми маємо не тільки павільйон, ми маємо свою невелику, але переговорну кімнату, в якій, я вважаю, і вже розпочалися проведення зустрічей, які в подальшому дадуть Україні не тільки результат на папері, а саме практичний результат. Тому КОП для нас – це в першу чергу розширення наших міжнародних можливостей.
I would also like to emphasize that the COP for us is an opportunity to hold bilateral discussions and negotiations. And for that, for the first time in the history of COP, we have our own negotiation room here at Ukraine's Pavilion. And Ukraine has big plans to hold a number of negotiations and meetings in order to proceed with our practical steps together with our partners, combine our achievements and move further together with our partners.
Але саме основна наша мета – це ми повинні саме на конференції КОП говорити про те, що а хто буде платити за викиди парникових газів, які відбуваються на території нашої країни, а хто за них буде відповідати, а як буде відповідати саме країна-агресор, тому що викиди є, вони юридично не фіксуються, і тому наша з вами головна мета, спільна мета на кожному рівні говорити про це, розказувати світу і в майбутньому впроваджувати нові механізми, які дозволять нам не тільки на папері сказати, що агресор винний, а також фактично, а можливо в подальшому і фінансово з нього стягнути зобов'язання.
And our biggest goal here at COP is, of course, to raise this issue of accountability of aggressor for the emissions of greenhouse gases due to the war. And we need to raise this issue at every opportunity we have, so that global community should start discussing who should be held accountable for those emissions that arise due to the war in Ukraine. And we need to further proceed with practical solutions and identify new initiatives, new mechanisms on how to make aggressor liable and accountable for all the damage that it has done to our climate.
Щодо другої частини питання нашої кліматичної політики, політики України, я всіх хочу запросити 8 грудня на великий івент, на якому буде саме міністр презентувати нашу політику в деталях, і там, де ми зможемо з вами проспілкуватися про неї, обговорити її. Я дуже коротко хочу розказати, що ми працюємо, уряд працює і працює з темпами набагато швидшими, чим ми працювали до війни.
As to Ukraine's climate policy, I would like to invite you to the event that will be held here at Ukraine's Pavilion on 8th of December. There will be our minister, and he will be presenting Ukraine's climate policy in all of its components. And I would like to emphasize that Ukraine's government is moving forward and working hard on Ukraine's climate policy. And we are even moving forward faster than it was before the war.
І нашими пріоритетами саме в кліматичній політиці залишається впровадження СТВ, оновлений національно визначений внесок, рамковий кліматичний закон і виконання наших міжнародних зобов'язань.
And here I would like to state that our priorities are still the same. We need to introduce in Ukraine emission trading system. We need to draw our framework climate law, and we need to review our NDC, and all of these components will ensure our sustainable climate policy in the future.
Дякую за увагу і бажаю всім продуктивної праці саме на полях конференції КОП.
Thank you for attention, and I wish to all of us to have a productive discussions and work here at COP.
This year, we start our conversation about COP in March, and preparation was fully on already in May this year. Incredibly, a lot of meetings and efforts have been put by the civil society in all this process. I would like to ask Vasilina, how do you see the role of the civil society in this, in how coping with the climate change issues? What are your recommendations in this? What is your role?
Well, thank you for the question. Good morning to everyone. I'll just repeat the introduction of myself. My name is Vasilina Belyo. I'm head of climate department at EcoAction. This is the biggest eco NGO in Ukraine. So I will briefly tell you what we as representatives of civil society do to cope with climate change. And as a climate crisis affects different aspects, different sectors, we are trying to organize our work according to that within our main three departments: the climate one, obviously, the energy one, and the agricultural one. And we also enlarge our involvement on the international, national, and local levels. But honestly, I would have to take at least several hours to describe how we as NGO and representatives of civil society are doing and what projects we are taking to combat and cope with climate crisis. So I will focus my today's speech on one message which I want to deliver to all in this room, is that the epicenter of global change derives from the local communities. And I think this principle resonates as well with our climate efforts today here in COP and globally in our countries. So the negotiations which are happening today, the decisions which will be made after the COP28 and decisions which were made previously, all of them have to be implemented on the local level, because they are not forced if we are not doing it in our households. So we as NGO closely cooperate with representatives of local communities and different civil society. And we help them implement the projects, different projects, which can arrive from climate adaptation to energy efficiency, to transition of coal regions, just transition of coal regions, to sustainable agricultural practices, and of course, green reconstruction. And when we are talking about green reconstruction, it's already happening in Ukraine. Although there is war ongoing, it's already happening where it's possible in limited, in limited space, in limited areas, but it's happening. And we feel from the broad civil society that there is a high interest to those topics like build back better, green recovery, etc. And this is why we formed one of our work tracks to work specifically with local communities and to help them understand how they can shift and how they can implement their recovery projects. But there is one big problem, actually. They have the great desire and enthusiasm, but often they just don't know how and what to do to make green reconstruction a reality. So, as I mentioned, we are trying to get the civil society acquainted with those practices. For example, this year we arranged a Green Info tour about reconstruction and energy security. And we had 120 applications from different local communities, which were interested and seeking possibilities to see the examples how certain projects are implemented in practice, to get their new enthusiasm and to implement that within their communities. And unfortunately, out of that 120 applications, we were able to invite only 20 representatives from civil society. This disproportion shows that we have very big gap between the demand of local societies, local communities, and the capacity of us as NGOs, probably on the national level as well, to cover the need in knowledge how to do a green reconstruction properly. The other moment I would like to pay your attention to is that when we're talking about reconstruction and greenhouse gases emissions originating from the full-scale war, the projections show that the majority of those emissions would occur on the stage of reconstruction. And I don't want to delve into details right now because we have the leading author, Leonard de Klerk, who was preparing the report on the greenhouse gases emissions from the full-scale war, and he will deliberate on that a little bit in details, I suppose, on the separate events. So I don't want to take a lot of time. I would probably wrap up my message and just reiterate that in order to shift the global perspective, in order to make massive change, we need to address and work with local communities. And that is the message probably to the representatives and ministry that our national climate policy should, I would say even must indicate the proper ways of cooperation with local communities. I would also encourage Ukrainian as well as foreign businesses to support, even in a small fraction, Ukrainian local communities to make our reconstruction really green. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vasilina. And now I would like to give the floor to Alexei Ryabshin with the question of the recommendations and your opinion on which framework should be for the climate ambitions of Ukraine today on this year COP, taking into account that Ukraine is in the war, taking into account that a lot of efforts is going on for the green reconstruction. You have 8 years of experience of professional negotiator. What is the framework for the climate ambitions of Ukraine?
Yes, thank you very much. I will stand. It will be much easier for me. Wow, it's my 8th year. Yeah, indeed. First of all, I'd like to thank all the soldiers, our men and women who are fighting in the trenches now for us to be able to be here and to represent Ukraine, and also, to did our job. Because I bet that a lot of those Ukrainians who are here, when the war have started, we were questioning ourselves whether the job of our life, the green development, the climate change, combating climate change, and the environmental protection are this so actual, like within the war. But after Kakhovka, after seeing all these environmental crimes, of this ecocide, and with the hope of the green recovery, as you mentioned, I bet this is our duty to did our best to help recover, to help to prepare for the recovery, to help to do our best to attract investment and to build the framework when the war will be over and we will have a victory, like that our soldiers and their family will not wait to return to the new modernized Ukraine. And I'm really happy to see how in my 8 years, how the negotiations were developed from a very niche topic where only some climate freak people like me and some other colleagues were visiting it, like often self-funded because we were believing in this stuff. And now this is kind of a must-have for civil society, for the government representative, and also for business. Because unfortunately, we don't have a representative from the tech today, but when I spoke with Maxim Timchenko and with the tech company who sponsored also this pavilion for the 2nd time, and I asked them why they are supporting the climate change, why they're investing in renewables, because they were mostly the fossil fuel business. And they said, climate change is like a tsunami, and you can fight with this with an umbrella, but you will be just destroyed. Or you can take a surf and lead, through the waves and to be a lead of the drivers. And this is what I see how Ukrainian business is investing in renewable, interested in hydrogen, even during the war. We have our first wind project and first biomethane project invested without any security guarantees, just like with the Ukrainian businesses who believe in its country and who believe that it should be led by example. So I really believe in this. And also I'm happy to see for the second time, the Pavilion. I remember in Glasgow with the Vice Prime Minister Stefanishina, we were walking through all of this beautiful pavilion and were dreaming like, let's have this pavilion, and sent to Minister Strelets, who was the second time, and for his team who organized this beautiful pavilion. And as Minister said, like, unfortunately, the next COP is homeless. And I don't know whether I disclose a secret. We were planning to host next COP in Kyiv. And we agreed this with the president. We, like, if not the war, we will submit the application for the next year, last year. And like, we would love to host this beautiful event in Ukraine once. We do believe that the next time we'll be able to do this. It's also our ambitious, as the moderator asked. And we were like really ambitious even before the war, full-scale war, because the war for us started in 2014. We had ambitious in DC. Our company started to do the climate neutrality pledge. We plan to launch the emission trading system in 2024. Like, we did huge amount of this activity, and also European integration for us is a driver for all of our like climate activity. But nevertheless, we do believe in a green recovery. We do believe that all of our investment will be toward the green, and we will recover and reconstruct our outdated energy and economic system into new, modern, green and climate. And this is a big part of our responsibility. And one more time, thank you for all of these men and women who are fighting on the trench line, allowing us to do our job greatly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexei, for so much hope in your speech. After the environmental Kakhovka disaster, Ukraine initiated the procedure of recognition of the ecocide as an international crime. Ukraine also worked a lot on the methodologies for calculation of the damages of the war on environment and also on climate. It's all would be not possible without researchers, without scientists, without people who are expert in their sphere and preparing this all calculation work and do their common efforts. I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Leonard de Klerk, who was working on the report on the influence of the war and calculation on the climate. Please, Leonard, the floor is yours if you hear us.
Yes, yes, I hear you. Okay, yes, Vitaly was. Thank you for hosting me. Yeah, indeed, when we started with calculating the emissions, I remember I was a bit hesitant on asking people in Ukraine on providing data, because I thought, well, there is a war going on, people are struggling to survive. So, why would they spend time on providing data for calculating so abstract of emissions and calculating the impact on climate change? But when I contacted my Ukrainian contacts, they were very clear. Yes, of course, we're going to work on this, and tell me what information you need, and we'll provide it. So, and it was particularly from the sides of the NGOs like EcoAction, but also the Kyiv School of Economics that were very helpful in providing the data. So that's for me a sign that the Ukrainians are really committed to fighting climate change and to mitigate carbon emissions. Now we've tomorrow at the official side event at 6:30 p.m. we will presenting the total emissions of 18 months of war. And the total emissions that can be attributed to this war is 150 million tons of CO2, which is more than a country like Belgium emits annually. And you should understand these are additional emissions, so they come on top of normal emissions. And these emissions are related to, first of all, to warfare. So the military that is using an awful lot of fossil fuel for the tanks and the fighter jets. It are wildfires because of the shelling that set off fires in forest. But as was already mentioned, the biggest source of emissions is in the future. And that's in the reconstruction of all those residential apartments, hospitals, kindergartens that have been either damaged or destroyed. And in our report that we will be publishing tomorrow, we also are looking at ways of how we can avoid or minimize these reconstruction emissions. But unfortunately, the war is still ongoing. We're now in the 21st month of this war, so the emissions will continue to increase. And as the Deputy Minister already mentioned, you know, Russia should be held accountable for these emissions. We in our third report, we already developed a methodology how we can put a number on these emissions in terms of how much we think the Russian Federation should compensate for these emissions that they have caused. And it's not so much that I think Ukraine should be interested in having the money as such, but the fact that Ukraine can use this money for this green recovery, for which so many plans are being made and developed at the moment. But also the money can be used, for example, to replant the forests that have been destroyed in the war, and by this way, some of these emissions that went into the atmosphere can be taken back and can be sequestered in Ukrainian forests. So I would like to conclude with that. So once more, so tomorrow at 6:30, the official side event where we publish our third report. And also would like to put the attention to coming Wednesday at 10 o'clock in Ukrainian Pavilion, where I will be talking also more about how we can minimize the emissions of the Ukrainian reconstruction. Thank you. Дякую.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for your efforts and for your speech. It's a great example of this pavilion. It's a great example of the common efforts and cooperation between a huge amount of people and organization. And I would like to thank you, first of all, everyone who comes here, our speakers, but also to make it possible, I would like to thank of these common efforts to the government of Ukraine, to civil society, to business representatives, especially to DTEC, to international partners, especially to the federal government of Germany and also GIZ. I would like to thank UNDP in Ukraine, UN Global Compact Ukraine, EBRD and RST team, Grace Tudorchuk Agency and Architecture Office Forum. I would like to invite everyone to agenda of Ukrainian Pavilion, where we have near 35 events and interesting discussions on the topics which were highlighted a little bit today on this opening ceremony. With agenda, our agenda is on the door. You can find it there for the details, and also on the left side near VR, you can scan the QR code to have an access of all the updates, video, and details of Ukrainian Pavilion work, and follow from the website. But before the closing of this ceremony, I would like to give the floor to Alexei and invite everyone to excited journey through the story of this year Pavilion. Enjoy the story and enjoy the events in Ukrainian Pavilion. You are very welcome, very warmly welcome here every time during work on COP28. I wish you a nice day.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess a lot of people already strolled through the pavilion, but like I would like to give a, I don't know, 5-minute, very brief explanation of what it's all about. So I would say that this pavilion is very uncomfortable from the very beginning. So it was an idea that like when you just enter the pavilion, you see the roof and you question yourself like, why the roof is here? And you know, it's not really comfortable. You need to walk through it, like to understand what it's all about. And for Ukrainian, we do understand that this war that we have in our country is very uncomfortable for the world. Yeah, it's like everybody wish to, you know, this war to be end as soon as possible. Nobody is, you know, care about the result, consequences of like, but you know, this roof and this house, basically it's an artifact. It's a silent witness of the war. And not only this one, because this roof and this tile, it survived the First World War, the Second World War, and it didn't survive current war. Like we brought this home and this roof from Kakhovka, and it's literally was taken out there by the gunshot, by the shells, and you know the team who was doing this, we're really proud of them. And you know, it's looked a bit modern, but like we were forced to wash all the mud and everything according to the local regulation. But like you would see that this is like a 100-year-old roof that we taken out. And just imagine that you are literally like with this war, you are out of your house. So you lost your house. Like what? This is a tragedy that, you know, like equal to the loss of the human life. And it's really painful. And just to show this image that we brought, like you can see here a picture of a tragedy of a mankind in Ukraine, but not only for men, but because huge amount of animals, huge amount of species, huge amount of biodiversity suffers through this man-made catastrophe. And the water that we lost in Ukraine would be enough to supply the entire Earth's population for 2 days. Just imagine this amount of water that were flooded. And also, we know that there are huge amount of this type catastrophe all over the world, like Pakistan and many, many other places in the earth suffer from the floods. And there is a special vehicle even discovered from the for the COP, like loss and damage fund that, you know, yesterday United States pledged 3 billion and many other countries pledged. And this catastrophe and with this pavilion is just show us that we are on the same, we share the same pain as a lot of nations from the global south. And if you just walk through like a bit further, like I would kindly and recommend you with this VR, just to feel the tragedy of the Ukrainian people. And this is the VR when like even the presidents of I wouldn't name the state were crying just looking to this VR when yesterday they came to our pavilion. So it's very powerful. It's very powerful signal just to understand what millions and millions of Ukrainians are seeing. And I'm really proud and really, you know, like inspired by these artifacts or masterpiece. I wouldn't say differently, because this masterpiece that was created by the artifacts from all over the Ukraine. So we have wood from Sumy, we have corn also from the border region, and you see this is a corn like that we brought, and this is its original size that was been on the shell. This is a piece of land, Ukrainian Chernozem, after the phosphorus bombarding, and this land would never be so powerful and so fertile as it used to be. You see this amount of land or this grain that has been destroyed. This is the grain after the shells have been heated to the grain storage. It would be enough to feed huge amount of people over this planet, and the hunger and this is one of the consequences of climate change. And Ukraine is a breadbasket of all the world, is trying to send a signal that climate change kills, but Russia also kills not only people in Ukraine, but all over the world, because of the blockade over the Black Sea that we were trying to escape and to build the corridors through the Black Sea. We are trying to save huge amount of lives, but Russia is neglecting this. We have the mortar shells and the mortar tails. So basically, this is the original artifacts and the burned wood. A lot of the fights in Ukraine are now taking over the woods and small woods. So basically, our soldiers are either protected by the woods and been destroyed and been targeted by Russia. And this has affected a lot of biodiversity, and the wood and the forests, which are the lungs of the planet, which absorbs huge amount of CO2, is now suffered. And what Victoria, our minister, said, who will pay and who will be responsible? Who will be accountable for this CO2 emission that is being now formed in Ukraine? And this is also a very uncomfortable question here in this COP. Who owns this emission? Who owns the emission from the Nord Stream 2 destruction? Who owns the emission from war in Ukraine, which are equal to annually emission of Belgium? And the answering, like, we are trying to end our story in the pavilion this side with some positive consequences and positive proposition. We have a peace plan of our president, Volodymyr Zelensky, which consists of 10 points, and have point 9, which is about the environmental protection. And number first, also for me, it's very important because it's about the nuclear disaster and protecting the world from nuclear blackmail, which Russia is also doing. And this quote, helping country end the war, teach us how to end all wars. This is basically our initiative, how to hold aggressor accountable, because we would like not to speak only about Ukraine's war. Because if, and we believe not if, but when the aggressor states all over the world will know that they will pay they will pay not only for the destruction of the territory, not for the harm that they did for the people, but for the nature destruction and for the CO2, it will give another burden for the aggressor, and this might stop more wars that unfortunately might be further. And the positive step is this beautiful wind turbines that we already spoke about. Ukrainian company DTEC was first, last year in our pavilion at COP where it was. Yeah, this one was very beautiful pavilion. They presented this project and they implemented it. It was the first wind project that was built during the war. As I mentioned already, we had the first biomethane project. We had other projects from the Ukrainian companies. We received huge amount of promises for the security guarantees, for the investment guarantees from all over the world. But first to come and who trust to its own country, it's our Ukrainian companies. So thanking them. And we believe in our green reconstruction, green recovery, and that we were able to use these challenges as opportunities to build another country for us, for our children, and for other great children. So thank you very much for being with us in this pavilion, for this opening, and enjoy our pavilion, enjoy this experience, and please attract more people to our pavilion who would like to tell this story to the whole world. Thank you very much.